Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the differences between the Taurus Sun, the Taurus Moon and the Taurus Rising. So stay tuned. Now, this series is an updated version of a series that I made about 4 years ago on the channel, so back in 2017. But within that space of time, I hope to bring some new and interesting pieces of information to the table. Now, I recommend that you watch this video, even if you're just here for your sun, moon, or rising. Watch the entire thing because things can interlink, and also keep in mind that things can change depending on your sun, moon, and rising combinations. Though I also feel the need to say that this, of course, is my own analysis, but also feel free to add to the discussion in the comment section down below if you would like. I do appreciate your feedback. Okay, so before we do dive into today's video, make sure that you give it a like if you do like it today. Also, make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and to, of course, click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have some merchandise pieces available along with some eBooks. So if you're interested in these things, then go to the link in the description box down below. Okay, so with all of those introductions out of the way, let's do this. Okay, so just to begin, I would like to give a brief overview of the sun, moon and rising within astrology. So these three placements are often referred to as your big three within the astrological community, and many people like to mention them as a way to express their very basic personality. Naturally, however, as most of us know, astrology goes much deeper than these three components, but I still think it's good to learn about these placements, especially if you are a beginner. But even if you're more advanced, I still recommend watching because who knows, maybe you will learn something new. Okay, so to begin, let's start off by discussing the sun in Taurus. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some keywords associated with the sun in astrology. Read those keywords, take them in, but what does it mean if these keywords are being combined with the sign or with the archetype of Taurus? Well, it creates an energy of a gentle, patient and calming self-expression, along with an energy of gaining applause for one's possessions and resources. Also, it creates an energy of one's individuality and ego being based on one's own talents, habits and values, along with an energy of a dependable yet stubborn identity. Plus, it also creates an energy of one's purpose being tied with one's own security, beauty, and wealth. And lastly, it creates an energy of musical and artistic creativity. But what does this specifically say about you if you were born under the sun sign, meaning that you have the sun in Taurus natally? Well, it suggests that you are intrinsically aware of your value. So looking at what and who you value, and also looking at how you value yourself, or lack thereof. So you might turn down an event if you think you won't get much from it, for example. Or you might place much of your focus onto a partner that you love because, well, you value them. Or you might attend a meetup if you know certain friends or loved ones will be there. However, on the flip side of this, if you don't value yourself, or if you're going through a moment of insecurity, then you might run into situations that don't serve you very well. Or you might run into people that do not have your best interests at heart. And the thing about this is that you're typically quite dependable and reliable people, and so you may stick around for longer than necessary for example, or you may be firm-footed and stubborn as you demand order and loyalty from others, or you might be persistent as you reject any type of change from happening. Therefore, you often leave little room for growth and change to occur within your life. It's like, this is what I value, and so this is what I'm sticking to. Don't question me, don't challenge me, and certainly don't try to push me out of my comfort zone. And so in this respect, you're quite familiar with what your creature comforts and habits are. You know what music soothes you, what food satisfies you, what blankets feel just right, what hair products suit your hair type, what smells enchant you. I could go on and on, Sun in Taurus folks. But basically, the point I'm trying to convey is that you feel good and calm when you're surrounded by your comforts, and you enjoy it when you're doing things that you habitually and routinely like to do. But yet, this way of living your life can also come with its challenges, because like I said, you might remain in your comfort zone, which can bring with it its complications. Heck, you might refuse advice from people who love you, who are telling you you need to change because if you don't, you're in danger. Now, of course, this is an extreme example, but it's you Taurus suns that can have the tendency of sticking to what your ego is comfortable with. Though I suppose something to consider is that pride can also come into play. Your stubbornness can also come into play. But then on the other hand, I also think you're more willing to budge or change whenever you feel good about the transition. I mean, if someone is yelling at you and putting you down, you'll dig your feet in firmer. But if they approach you with kindness and with calmness, you're more willing to listen. And if the other person is using common sense and rationality, then even better. And especially if they show you the value of the change through tangible physical means, then A+. See, it's you who connects with the world in a physical, concrete way. Your ego and your individuality, these things are rooted within reality, within the material world, and so there's this relationship that you form with Earth in all of its pleasures. So if you're shown something through touch, for example, you're more likely to appreciate what you're being shown. In fact, you might be the type of Taurus sun individual who takes trips out in nature, or you might have plants that you take care of within your home, or you might like gardening or growing your own food, or you might enjoy picnics or visiting farms or garden centers. Then again, perhaps you're the type of Taurus sun individual who enjoys being by the sea or by the ocean, as you feel the breeze of the air touch your face with the sun beaming down. Maybe you love nothing more than taking your dog out for a walk along the seafront or in the woods. Then again, perhaps you're the type of Taurus sun individual who enjoys your food, and I mean good quality food and really good quality drink. Yeah, you may be the typical foodie Taurus individual. Or perhaps you're a Taurus sun individual who is quite fashionable and stylish. Maybe you're up to speed with all the beauty and clothing trends, or maybe you're quite aware of how clothing feels on your body, how it sits on your body, but most importantly, there's something about how comfortable your clothes feel on you. Perhaps you even go between comfort and ease and glam and runway model. Yeah, there's those of you who may be quite materialistic, but then there's others of you who are more simplified and more minimal, but then again, you may fluctuate between these two. Again, though, I think it depends on what you value. It depends on what your ego feels drawn towards. Though to be fair, I also think being resourceful matters to you. And your earning potential may mean a great deal to you as well. And so in this way, you're quite good at problem solving or coming up with practical solutions for things. You may also seek employment that aligns with your material desires and your physical security. You can be very hardworking people, make no doubt about it. But I also think that if you could choose, you wouldn't want to work as much. If you could choose, perhaps you would prefer to lie in than get up and take on the day. Maybe being at home and taking it easy is far more appealing to you than hustling all day long. But when you get into the rhythm of work and into the rhythm of your daily responsibilities, I think you do make an effort to keep on top of things, especially if the attraction of making more money is involved. Because hey, money will pay for your car, for your trips to the hairdresser, for that new lamp that you've had your eye on for quite some time. Yeah, when it comes to money and wealth, you're typically pretty much interested. And even if you're a Taurus Sun individual who isn't so concerned with owning loads of things, you're still aware of what you need to do, what you gotta do in order to ensure your survival. You're willing to do what's necessary if it means putting food on the table. Though I do wonder, was it that you grew up with a father figure who was a deliberate, hardworking man? Someone who was the main provider within your household? Or maybe he tried to instill into you the importance of earning a living? And maybe you learned many valuable lessons from your father in this respect. Or perhaps he was someone who lived off the land. Maybe he was a farmer or a gardener or a construction worker. Or maybe he worked out in nature as he made an effort to conserve lakes or rivers or mountains, etc. Could be that some of you didn't see your father though, or just didn't see him often, but you still appreciated the time that you did spend with him. Or perhaps there were times whenever you saw your father battling with his self-worth. Maybe he felt moments of insecurity, or maybe he placed much of his worth into his earning potential. And so times whenever he earned less or spent too much, he wasn't pleased with himself. He felt unsettled. Or perhaps he was more hard on himself, but then times whenever he provided very well, he felt more at ease, he felt more secure, and he was in better spirits. Though on the other hand, perhaps there's some of you Taurus Suns who didn't have a stable or solid relationship with this father figure. Maybe this has impacted you to this day, where you also struggle to feel stable and solid within your relationships, especially when it comes to your romantic relationships. Maybe this father relationship, it has a lot to say for how secure you feel within love. Then on the flip side, for those of you who felt that stability with your father, maybe you go on to form much more fruitful, rewarding relationships. Maybe you are much more at ease. Furthermore, perhaps this father figure was or is quite indulgent. Somebody who finds it difficult to turn down that bun or that drink. Perhaps you inherited this self-indulgent gluttony from your father. Then again, perhaps you inherited his musical or his artistic qualities. Maybe he comes from a family that was or is quite musical. Maybe you consider yourself to be musical. Maybe you have quite a lovely singing voice, or perhaps the way you talk comes across as very calming and gentle and soothing. Though another possibility is that this father figure brought a solid and orderly presence to your life growing up. He was reliable, he was dependable, he was persistent, and when he said he was going to do something, he did it. And so in this respect, he was loyal and he was committed. And he was also kind and reasonable. And he often used his common sense. Perhaps also he tended to spend his well-earned money on you whenever he could, or he was basically more than generous, and he was more than attentive. But again, it could have gone the other way, where in actuality he could not show up as much as he wanted to, or as much as you wanted him to. But whatever the case may be, I actually think that many of you Taurus suns have gotten your values, or your lack of values, from a father figure. And perhaps also you picked up on habits he did that you do to this present day. Likewise, maybe you have inherited his work ethic. Now, just moving along here, another thing you're aware of is of what you're talented at, what you're good at, and what you're not so good at. In fact, you may be great at singing or composing or music, or you might be talented at fashion or beauty or design, or you might be talented at expressing yourself through art and rhythm. But the thing about this is that you don't typically rush to make these things happen. You take your time and you go at a steady pace. And because you take your time, you create amazing, spectacular results. Oh yeah, you're very good at watering and nourishing your talents, so to speak. And then with time, they blossom into something great. And this, I think, is quite a powerful thing about you, because whilst others are racing to the finish line, you're just like, I'll get there whenever I get there. It's a classic tortoise and the, I was about to say Taurus there, see? It's a classic tortoise and the hare story. Though there may be times when you don't do anything, and then before you know it, your ship has sailed. But regardless of your movement, your creativity usually illustrates your artistic or your musical talents. And again, it can also illustrate your ability to use common sense. And so if you're creating a video or an article, for example, you're not the type of people to go off on a tangent. You get straight to the point and then you move along, whilst also bringing value. So it's value over quantity in this respect. And even if you notice others creating things, your ego isn't going to be easily shaken or swayed. In fact, I think you're the types of people who possess very secure identities, very dependable identities. So people can say all they want about you, but you won't pay them lip service. Others can come along and try to knock you down, but I mean, you're a bull. So good luck to them. Now, this is not to say that you don't have moments of fear or self-doubt or uncertainty. It's not to say that you don't have weaknesses or insecurities like the rest of us, but it's more to do with how you handle situations that challenge your identity and challenge your self-worth. It's all water off a duck's back, Taurus suns. In fact, you can be a very supporting friend or a very supporting lover to those who are struggling with their own security issues. You're great at listening, you're great at giving advice, and you're great at comforting and lending a helping hand. And if someone else hurts your ego or they hurt your pride, you might refuse to engage if you think that situation isn't worth your valuable energy. Now, of course, it depends on the situation, but I think you can be quite forgiving people. You're understanding towards other people's shortcomings and failures, but actions do speak louder than words. And so actions must line up with what other people are saying or with other people's apologies. And if they don't, you'll probably get to a point where you say, nah, I don't need that energy in my life. And once you get to that point, it's extremely difficult to change your mind. Yeah, you Taurus suns are not easily persuaded, and there's no way you're going to tolerate others hurting your ego. However, like I've been saying, I think this also depends on your value, and it also depends on your self-worth. Now, some astrologers do refer to the ascendant / the rising sign as representative of our life path, and then the sun sign as representative of the individual we are striving to become. And so in your case, Taurus suns, perhaps you are striving to become these individuals who are secure in themselves, people who do not shake easily, people who remain solid and firm in their position, whilst also recognizing when your stubbornness can hinder you from growing and learning. Likewise, maybe you are striving to recognize what your values and what your talents are. So looking at the type of value you live your life according to, and also finding out what you're talented at, what you're gifted at, what you're skilled at, and looking at what you bring to the world that is of value. Now, the last thing that I want to quickly touch on is to do with your romantic relationships. And you're most likely providers within your romantic relationships, and you make a conscious effort to enjoy the finer things in life with your lovers. Perhaps you love nothing more than curling up on the sofa, cuddling with your partner, having them close, or maybe it brings you much happiness seeing your partner at ease and comfortable with you. And you may also illustrate your love in physical ways, such as through touch and sensuality, or through acts of service, or through buying your lover thoughtful gifts. Essentially though, you're typically someone who gives off a solid presence in love. Now, before we do move on to the moon, make sure that you are locating the house placement of the sun, because this is going to show you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. And also remember aspects, because aspects can show you any difficulties that may arise along with other energies that may influence that sun energy. Okay, so moving along, let's now look at the moon in Taurus. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some key words associated with the moon in astrology. Read those key words, take them in. But what does it mean if these key words are being combined with the sign or with the archetype of Taurus? Well, it creates an energy of solid and stable caregiving, along with an energy of habitual, rhythmic and predictable emotional patterns. Also, it creates an energy of rational and calm emotional reactions, as well as an energy of unconscious materialism and eating. Plus, it also creates an energy of emotional support that is comforting and holding, along with an energy of instinctive pleasures and comforts. But what does this specifically say about you if you were born under this moon sign, meaning that you have the moon in Taurus natally? Well, it suggests that you grew up in a family home that was supportive, comforting, and secure. Likewise, there was room for you to discover talents and skills that you wished to develop. So for example, maybe your family made time for you whenever you needed it, or maybe you grew up with plenty of materials and money, or maybe there was consistency from your parents who made a continuous effort to really show their love and their affection towards you. Also, perhaps skills, any skills that you wanted to pursue, they were encouraged. It was like, hey, I bought you this piano because I remember you saying you wanted to play, or I booked you dance lessons because I think you have a real talent there. And so perhaps in this way, you felt or feel appreciated and you feel that love from your family. Maybe doing things as a family was also important, such as arranging family movie nights or visiting the beach at the weekend. Perhaps you picked up good habits when it came to belonging and feeling emotionally supported by your loved ones. Though on the other hand, perhaps there's some of you Taurus moons who didn't feel valued emotionally, but you were valued for what you could be used for. Valued for the money that you brought in, or valued for the gifts or for the talents that you had. It's interesting because I've noticed many child stars with a Taurus moon with this placement. And if you think about it, it's child stars that bring in wealth to their family home. And so therefore, perhaps some of you Taurus moons have been working from quite a young age because you had something of value to offer. And if we look at this on a smaller scale, maybe there's some of you Taurus moons who have felt used by your family for how you look or for how you sound, or for, like I said, how talented you were or are. This could have been the likes of your parents pushing on you to pursue something because it made them look good. And so in this way, your parents would see you as an extension of themselves rather than as you being an individual. And so in the process, you didn't feel as if your emotional needs were being met. However, maybe this was a situation where you were sheltered, fed, given toys, given more than enough clothes. You were provided for in a material way, basically. But what you picked up from this is that your emotional well-being depends on what you own, what you possess, what you have. And so times when you're told you can't have that, it's a total meltdown. Or times whenever you don't have enough money to pay for something, you take things quite personally and you sulk and you pout. Maybe you got used to having certain things, and so during a certain stage where said things are removed, you find it really, really difficult to function. In fact, I think it's your emotional need for security, materials, and wealth that makes you sort of play it safe when it comes to the same things. For example, you might turn down a job offer if it doesn't align with your material pleasures and desires. Or you might be very careful as you assess situations with friends and partners. And this is because you're wanting to make sure that you make the right decision in order to ensure that your survival needs are met, or in order to ensure that you don't fall in with the wrong crowd, resulting in instability and unease within your life. In fact, you might have grown up with a mother figure who urged you to be careful when it came to your physical security. Maybe she would think things through before making any hasty decisions within the household, or maybe she made an effort to create a solid foundation for you to grow up on. Perhaps stability was something that strongly mattered to her. It strongly mattered to your family, and so she delivered in this way. For example, maybe she ensured that you had enough clothes or items, or maybe she worked and so she provided and brought money into the family. Or perhaps she did her best to play a solid role within your life. There was certainly loyalty and dependability on her part. Then again, maybe there's others of you whose mother struggled financially to support you and your family. Maybe she had to really wait patiently for a certain living situation to unfold, or maybe she felt insecure about what she could offer as a mother. In fact, perhaps it was this mother figure whose value was tied in with materials and finances. Maybe it was her that was wrapped up in her looks or wrapped up in her financial status. And so, during moments of material stress, she became difficult. Maybe she was quite stubborn and she would dig her heels into the ground until she got what she wanted. anything she wanted had to happen or else. Quite possibly you inherited such qualities from her, or you simply saw her in this particular light. Yeah, maybe you viewed her as someone concerned with their possessions. Perhaps also she was actually a collector. Maybe she was someone who had the cupboards just full of things, or maybe she was someone who was really into her fashion or her beauty, or she was someone who managed the accounts and the budgets within the household. And so due to these reasons, maybe your mother really took charge within your family household. She quite possibly had a separate bank account for you as a way to ensure that you were provided for later on. Again, perhaps you inherited this money management thing from her. You sort of learned from her how to provide for yourself, how to sustain yourself, how to look after yourself. However, your mother could have also been possessive and self-indulgent and, like I said, stubborn. So perhaps she acted possessive of you as she would make her demands, or maybe she would have a hard time knowing her limits. She desired more and would lust after certain materials to possess. Perhaps underneath, she was actually feeling deeply insecure, and her way of coping with her insecurities was buying stuff. But yet, all this spending didn't bring her closer to happiness. It didn't bring her closer to inner fulfillment. This way of living did not actually make her feel content. Maybe she isn't aware of this herself. Heck, perhaps you aren't aware of such behaviors within yourself. But nonetheless, there's this likelihood of you using the material world as a way to feel emotionally satisfied and internally secure, Taurus moons. However, I also think that as you grow and mature, you become familiar with these habits. I think with self-awareness, you come to terms with why you spend your money on certain things or why you save your money. And I also think you become aware of what and who you value with more rationale and reason. Maybe throughout this process, you figure out that you don't even like a certain thing, or you discover that you're only buying things as a way to impress other people. Or perhaps what you thought you valued isn't actually what you value after all, and so you make changes which also result in changes being made to your habits and your pleasures and your comforts. Though I suppose the difference between you and the Taurus suns is that it might take you some more time to change what is comfortable and familiar to you. This is because your emotional needs and your emotional patterns, they are coming into play. Along with your emotional security. So, for example, you might find it very difficult to let go of a pleasure or of a habit because it's something that you're really used to. And then changing that said thing can make you feel emotionally stressed, or you might hold on to a particular comforting item because it provides you with safety and support, possibly leading to emotional stress if it's taken away, because maybe you relied on that thing for that calmness, for that stability. Essentially, there's a likelihood of you finding it challenging to part ways from what you once knew, from what was consistent and reliable within your life, and it's your emotions that are being impacted here. So you might find it upsetting to move house, for example, or you might become stressed when a new family member enters your household, or you might be disheartened when a friend moves school or goes on holiday, or you might be really shaken up when a relationship ends, especially if you got quite comfortable within that relationship. Yeah, there's no denying that feeling at ease matters to you, Taurus moons, and when something or someone comes along to shake these feelings, it's not nice, it's not a pleasurable experience. And as I've been saying, changing your habits can be a challenge, but once you do eventually start a new habit, you are routine and you're consistent. In this way, you are such reliable people. And so when it comes to supporting others emotionally, you are present, you know how to hold space for others. Perhaps you learned this from your mother, who would hold space for you very well. Maybe she was talented at holding space for others just overall. Still, when it comes to you, you typically try to approach people who are going through their own emotions with patience and with kindness. You listen as you carefully support them. And you most likely provide rational advice rather than getting swept away in the heat of the moment. And so when people come to you for emotional support, you try to go steady and slowly rather than rushing in with judgments, rather than rushing in with your opinions too soon. You're great at really empathizing, but you're also good at grounding the other person if they get too caught up in a false state of reality. It's like, okay, be present with me and we can work through this together. In fact, your friends most likely see you as a highly supportive and caring person. Though this doesn't mean that you're a pushover, of course. Far from it. Sure, you may value other people's emotional reactions to things, but there's no way that you're going to tolerate nastiness or rudeness or people flying off the handle. And when it comes to how you react emotionally to things yourself, I think it depends on what it is that triggers your emotions, of course, but I think for the most part, you try to remain calm and cool and collected. I think you try to remain pretty rational and level-headed, so maybe in this way, it takes a lot to get you emotionally riled up, but oh my goodness, whenever you do eventually become uncontrollably emotional, it can be very difficult to get you to calm down again. There's no trying to reason with you. It's just pure emotion and you're stubborn in the process. Though I suppose that this leads me on to your emotional needs. And what I think you need emotionally is plenty of physical touch and closeness. So a good hug or a trip to your favorite donut shop with a friend, or a nice long walk along the beach with your partner. Basically, I think you like having loved ones close and you like when you feel a type of physical connection with somebody else. Though on the other hand, perhaps there's times whenever all you want to do is curl up in bed and watch TV on your own, or times whenever you need to take a hot bath or a warm shower as you use all of your lotions and your scrubs. And seeing as I mentioned this is something I left out from the Taurus Sun section, and that is self-care. Oh yes, Taurus Sun, Moon and Risings, you may truly appreciate your self-care. So taking some time to pamper yourself, though to be fair, self-care can also come in different forms, such as intellectual self-care or financial self-care. Still though, if there's one sign who knows how to step back from the hustle of everyday life, it's you, Taurus. But focusing on you Taurus moons, it's your self-care that is tied in with your emotional needs. So for example, if you feel emotionally overwhelmed, maybe you'll take a break off social media. Or if you feel emotionally all over the place, maybe you'll step back from the workload and focus on yourself instead. In fact, you may be very good at knowing when to unplug or when to relax. You're quite good at paying attention to your body's needs in this respect. Though on the other hand, I think there can be times when you comfort eat or times whenever you eat when stressed or worried. So this may be something to consider because I think your eating habits, they can often be unconscious. Maybe you get into these eating habits that are difficult to change. Though to be fair, this could also go the other way where you habitually undereat, and the same thing could be connected here with your spending habits. So this idea of unconsciously spending, especially on things that you don't actually need, nor will you actually use. Though the last thing I do want to talk about within this section is to do with art and music and how these things can comfort you greatly. Yeah, these things can calm you and they can soothe you. And so this could quite possibly be that an emotional need of yours is listening to a certain song before you go to sleep, or maybe an emotional need of yours is playing an instrument or drawing in your sketchbook or listening to your favorite band. And perhaps following on from this point, you are quite musical and creative yourself. You're in tune with your rhythm and with your creativity. Maybe you sing or you dance or you act or you paint, or maybe visiting galleries and museums makes you feel at ease also. And come to think of it, if there is a certain food item that you love that does bring you feelings of ease and comfort, maybe incorporating it into your diet in a healthy way can be really satisfying for you, can be really emotionally fulfilling. Though whatever the case, it's you Taurus moons who are instinctively in touch with all the things that your body desires in order for you to feel safe and secure. Now, before we do move on to the ascendant / the rising, make sure that you are locating the house placement of the moon, because this is going to show you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. And also remember aspects, because aspects can show you any difficulties that may arise along with other energies that may influence that moon energy. Okay, so lastly then, let's look at the ascendant / the rising in Taurus. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some keywords associated with the rising / the ascendant in astrology. Read those keywords, take them in. But what does it mean if these keywords are being combined with the sign or with the archetype of Taurus? Well, it creates an energy of a dependable and comfortable life path, along with an energy of a realistic and immovable self-identity. Also, it creates an energy of slow and smooth body movements, as well as an energy of solid and harmonious facial features. Plus, it also creates an energy of a calm and stable demeanor, as well as an energy of habitual yet somewhat lazy energy levels. Though what does this specifically say about you if you were born under this ascendant / rising sign, meaning that you have the ascendant / the rising in Taurus natally? Well, it suggests that you see the world through a lens of value, security, resourcefulness, and materials. But you also see it through a lens of what you can purchase, what you can buy, what you can obtain, but also through a lens of who and what is valuable to you, who and what is worth your time, energy, and resources. So for example, you might strategize yourself in such a way so you can obtain a certain level of wealth, or you might be realistic when it comes to where you live, or you might make little effort when you believe a certain person isn't to your liking, if they're not really worth your time. Maybe when you first meet others, you come across as kind and as very attentive. You seem calm and patient and easygoing. But with further investigation, you see through other people quite intensely. You can certainly pick up on other people's bad intentions, and when you do, you politely leave or you back away. Then again, maybe you stick around as a way to understand where these intentions may be stemming from. So there is that. Though still, I think you typically prefer to focus your energy on people who build you up and make you feel appreciated and loved. Then again, perhaps such realizations, they gradually come to you. It takes some time, okay? The older you become, or the more mature you become, then I think you gain more experiences within your relationships. I mean, if we are to jump just right into this, there's a tendency here of you Taurus risings attracting partners who are manipulative and controlling. These people who are overbearing, smothering, domineering, people who dig at your weaknesses and they expose your biggest vulnerabilities. And so therefore, perhaps there's some of you Taurus risings who get to a stage in your life where you think, no way am I tolerating that. And so you refuse to be in a relationship or, I suppose, connect with anyone who doesn't value you. You refuse to be with someone who drags you down into their, I suppose, state of hell. On the other hand, maybe you attract partners and relationships that completely transform you for the better or for worse. It's actually through your one-on-one relationships that you evolve and you truly grow as a person, which is interesting because you are typically the types of people who stick to what you know. You usually hold on to your creature comforts and habits similar to the Taurus suns and the Taurus moons. But I think for you Taurus risings, a part of your journey involves stepping out of your comfort zone, and the ways in which you do this is through your morals and through your beliefs and through your higher education. And also predominantly through your one-on-one relationships, like I'm trying to say. Indeed, it's these things that shake you to your core and get you thinking bigger and wider. But there is still an intention of seeking order and calm and stability within your life. And it's these things that are also part of your life path. In fact, you might show more curiosity towards other people's dark sides and their shadow selves, or at least this is what you grow to do. Maybe being curious and inquisitive, these things are what you come to value and appreciate. And as you do investigate others, you get a deeper sense of people and why they do the things that they do. Now, this is not necessarily to say that you should welcome dangerous or horrible people into your life, but it's through such people that you are greeted with qualities and attributes that lie hidden within you. So for example, perhaps you're unaware of how you've repressed optimism and hope within your psyche. Maybe you see yourself as more of a realist than an optimist, or maybe when you look at the world, you notice the hardships and the struggles and the pain. You see what limits people, how people suffer due to obstacles. And to you, there's no denying these things. And if others do turn a blind eye to such things, you think, what fools. Maybe on your quest to create order, you think that rationality and practicality must be brought forward, because without these things, what else does humanity have other than anarchy and chaos? Then again, maybe you know all too well about the balance between order and chaos because you've seen these two opposing forces in action throughout your life. For example, maybe you know what it's like to be financially scattered and undirected with your money. Or maybe you've lived through a situation where you lost your job or you lost your home, or maybe you've experienced what it's like to be sheltered with plenty of resources due to your ability of switching things up when you've needed to. Or maybe you grow to earn a living due to your intellectual and smart ideas. Essentially, there seems to be a fluctuation between living a chaotic life and living a stable life. But I think that as you mature and grow, you learn to manage these things with more ease. In fact, maybe by embracing change, you welcome in new opportunities, and so you grow and you expand. And whilst you evolve, you are greeted with more optimism and hope and freedom as well. And not only do you look at the world and see real people with real struggles, you also look at it with a glimmer of hope for the future. Which, by the way, you are usually such empathetic and compassionate people. You use the words you say in such a way that you consider other people's feelings. You show affection and kindness and support towards your loved ones. And when you look to humanity, or you think of humanity as a whole, you don't turn your nose up and judge. You simply understand that everybody has something that they're struggling with, something that hurts them. You realize that everybody has their issues and that we're all part of the collective unconscious. And so when we circle this back to you seeing the world through a lens of security and resourcefulness, you make it your duty to ensure that you can provide for your loved ones and your family. Your future aspirations are that of building and forming a solid foundation for future generations to come. For example, maybe you value your learning and your education, and so you use your intellectual skills as a way to get a decent paid job. Or maybe you're realistic and level-headed when it comes to approaching new situations. You're careful and you plan things out methodically and steadily. Or maybe you are great at coming up with solutions to difficult problems and issues. Perhaps you're also very hands-on as you use the materials and resources that you have. Though I suppose the tricky part here is being able to maintain your focus along the way, rather than becoming distracted by the next shiny new thing. But at the same time, it's also showing enough curiosity, because curiosity can lead to new opportunities. Like I said, there's a balancing here throughout your life between order and chaos, between what's already there and what's new. Perhaps you're often tempted by your desires and your pleasures, or maybe it can be easy to give into your hedonistic tendencies. These things that come along your path, that grab your attention for just a moment, but don't actually hold any intrinsic value in the long run. So this could be the likes of a new pair of shoes that you want to buy, but you don't need. Or this could be a person you lust after, but in actuality, the consequences of being with that person would be devastating. Oh yeah, Taurus risings, perhaps you know of all the beautiful and luxurious things that tempt you at every turn. But the question is, will you give in? And if you do give in, what will be the consequences? What burdens will you have to carry? But then just as much, if you don't give in, what have you missed out on? What wonderful thing could you have brought into your life, even if it is just for a short moment? Now, some astrologers associate the sun sign with the person that we are striving to become, and then they associate the rising / the ascendant with our life path. Therefore, make sure you are locating the sun within your birth chart for more information. But when it comes to your life path, Taurus risings, perhaps it's associated with gaining some type of stability and calm within your life. It's connected with harmony and patience, and it's also connected with gratitude for what you own and what you have, and gratitude for who is in your life also. And perhaps also it's associated with creating that order that we've been discussing so far. Therefore, your security and your financial positions are being emphasized. Likewise, your self-worth and your values are being emphasized. Sure, it's also these things that can change, and they can be quite fleeting depending on your situation. But I think there's something powerful to be found in getting back to basics here. So this idea of concentrating on what's simple and what's concrete and evident, rather than getting carried away by people and situations that make life ever so complicated and confusing. And so perhaps for you, a part of your life path is that of recognizing, you know what? I feel content. I feel safe. I have everything I could ever ask for. Don't get me wrong, with that also comes work and being able to provide. And so on that note, make sure that you are locating your chart ruler, which is Venus. This position of Venus will provide you with more insight into how you earn a living. Also, it can show you how you handle your finances, what you may spend your money on, how you set yourself up in terms of security and resources. And it'll also show you how you connect when in love, how you show love, the types of partners you attract, and it will give you some more information about your value and self-worth. So looking at how these things play a contributing factor when it comes to how you choose to live your life, especially when it comes to your materials and also when it comes to self-care. In fact, there may be some of you Taurus risings out there who are materialistic and all about gaining as much money as possible. No shame in that. But still, just keep in mind that, keep in mind the balance here between order and chaos, like I said, because you never truly know what's around the corner, right? We can't plan everything in life to the T. Still, however, it's the position of Venus that will provide you with some insight into how you approach the material world, Taurus risings. Oh, and also make sure that you are considering those other 11 houses throughout your chart. Now, moving along here, when it comes to your physical appearance and your facial features, you usually appear as quite strong, okay? Your features are quite strong and solid. So you might have a solid or a strong nose, or a solid, strong neck or a chin. Or there might be something about you that appears very smooth and gentle. This could be your gaze or your eyes, or this could be your skin. And you're typically known for being quite beautiful and appealing people. And you certainly know how to look after your appearance. So looking at good hygiene, or having a great hair condition, or a great sense of style. But not only does your appearance show a harmonious look, your demeanor and your mannerisms also showcase this calmness and this gentleness. And so in this way, maybe you are well liked by others, you're easy to approach, or perhaps you aren't the types of people to make any sudden, sharp movements that startle other people. Though essentially, you give off a pretty grounded and stable first impression. You come across as rational and collected. Though the last thing that I want to talk about today is to do with your energy levels. And to be blunt, you can get into habits and routines where you remain stuck in a rut, and you can sometimes come across as lazy and as unbothered. So if you really, really don't want to do something, you might fuss, or you might become irritated, annoyed. In fact, it can take a lot of convincing and a lot of persuasion to get you to do anything during times when you just don't feel like it. I mean, sure, you might be more active whenever you're alone. You might be more of a go-getter behind the scenes. But when it comes to doing things out in the world, you can be so fussy. And you usually don't like using up more energy than is necessary. So in this way, you're quite slow to action. You're not the most driven or most self-motivated. However, with that being said, once those wheels are in motion and you get into a routine or into a rhythm that works for you, you're golden, you're consistent. You're much more driven then, and you show up every day. You're dependable, you're reliable. Yeah, you're a solid force. A solid force who appreciates a decent break or a good cup of coffee, but a solid force nonetheless. Though the tricky part is getting you to move. Getting you to see, maybe me being active and on the go today is actually a good idea, rather than hitting the snooze button on your alarm. And perhaps a way to get you moving is for you to see the incentive. It's to see the reward. And ultimately, it's to see the value of your efforts, I suppose. Though when it does come to your energy levels, make sure that you are locating the position of Mars within your chart. This is because Mars rules over our energy levels within astrology. So by locating Mars, perhaps it will tell a different story to what I am saying, or maybe it will add to the story. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my really long video all about the differences between the Taurus Sun, the Taurus Moon, and the Taurus rising. Now, if you happen to have any of these placements, then certainly let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. I do appreciate your feedback, like I said. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button, and also make sure that you give this video a like, remember. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!